Do you know who I am? I was at the pharmacy and there was a bit of a line. There was only one woman working, taking care of customers, answering the phone, filling prescriptions, totally multitasking. She was going as fast as she could and I felt so badly for her. Enter Karen. Your typical short blonde hair, whiny voice, and entitled attitude. She comes, she starts huffing and puffing, saying things under her breath, and then she starts being more vocal. Come on, I have things to do. This is unacceptable. It's taking way too long. Why doesn't she hurry up? Isn't there anyone else working here? At this point, I was starting to lose my cool. I don't like to see people being abused. I turned to her and said that the woman was alone back there and doing her best. I don't care. I need my prescription. I don't have time to wait. I turned to her again and said that the woman was obviously flustered and doing what she could the fastest she could. Karen says, well, she needs to move faster. I have places I need to be. I turned towards her and said, you need to calm down. Then Karen said, the best Karen line we all know. Do you know who I am? I said, yes, you're Karen. She goes, my name is not Karen. Why would you call me that? I said, because you complain and moan and are an overall joy to be around. She huffed and puffed some more. Then it was my turn. I admit, I asked the pharmacy tech a bunch of questions. I felt badly about holding up the line, but being able to make Karen wait and become even angrier was too delicious to pass by. Karen wants town to control wild elk. Not me, but a friend's story. We live in a touristy town that has elk everywhere, like hanging out in the grocery store parking lot kind of everywhere. It's cool and the locals are used to it. Well, every September the elk get frisky as it's the start of the rut or mating season. It is what it is. My friend volunteers at our town's visitor center and was working there answering stupid tourist questions when a Karen came in with her 2 kids trailing behind her. She was in a lather and demanded to speak to someone in charge. My friend asked how she could help, and the woman said, we were in town and there were elk having sex right out in the open. My friend just looked at her and said, they're wild animals and it's the rut. That's what they do. Karen responded with, you need to do something. I don't want my children exposed to that. My friend reiterated that they are wild animals and there is nothing she could do, and Karen stormed off, kids in tow, to find someone else to solve her problem. My friend said the most concerning part to her was how Karen spelled out sex like spelling it would protect her kids, and if that meant her 14 and 10-year-olds couldn't spell a 3-letter word. Male Karen, my dad, loses his mind. So I've just found out that my dad has entirely lost his mind. This happened on Father's Day, so he and my brother went out to buy something that needed to fit in the frying pan, not sure what it was. And when my dad found the item he was after, my brother immediately realized it was not going to fit and pointed it out. My father ignored him and bought it anyway. At the checkout, my father asked what time they close, which was 5 p.m. They got home and went to try out the new gadget, to only my dad's surprise it didn't fit. My dad said that they will go and return it later that day. Fast forward a few hours, he arrives back at the store after 5 p.m., proceeds to somehow get inside and approaches a young junior salesperson. He was told that the computers had already been shut down for the night and that he couldn't return it. He proceeds to scream at the poor sales assistant, who's half his size, and swear at her. He also threw the boxed item on the ground while still hurling abuse at her, and went to grab the one that was the correct size, saying, well, if you can't let me return my item, then I'll exchange it for this one. The next part, I am not sure what happened, but he put the correct item back down and continued yelling at her. He brought her to tears, and she left to go to the back room crying. Her coworker stood there unsure of what to do the whole time. At this point, my brother stepped in and yelled at my dad, quit being a Karen! We can come back another day! And pushed him out of the store and back towards the car. Entitled Karen thinks I should be stupid. So I'm a cashier at a grocery store. I've been a cashier for about 2 years. I bring this up to show I'm fairly good at my job. I've been told by management I'm one of the best. My items per minute is usually over 20. Part of the reason I'm quick is I know around 90% of the produce codes off the top of my head, so I don't have to waste time looking them up, which is apparently the problem here. Let's get to the story. So, I'm on the express lane and it's about noon on Saturday, so it's fairly busy. A lady, the Karen of this story, starts putting her items on my mini belt. As she sets down her squash, she says, "It doesn't have a sticker, but I can tell you the number." I don't know, I guess she saw it on another sticker or something? I reply, "Oh, I know it." This upsets her because I guess since I'm a cashier, I must be stupid because of my job title. She replies, "I'm just trying to be helpful." I don't really respond because I don't know how to. Like, how should I respond to someone trying to help with something mundane that I don't need help with? So I just continue to scan and punch in her produce codes. She continued on, "You really shouldn't be rude to your customers." Again, all I said was that I knew the code for her squash. I just smile and continue. After she was done, I help the next person, but I glance over and see her at the customer service counter. They don't help her right away because, like I said, this was about noon on a Saturday. They were busy. However, it just so happened that the head store manager walks by. I see her talking to him and I think, well, that's just great because I'm sure she's going to twist it and I'm going to get in trouble. They talk for a bit and she leaves. Once I'm not helping a customer at this point, he comes over to talk to me. "Did you have a problem with her?" I reply something like, "Well, she set down a squash and told me she could tell me the code, and I just told her that I knew it." He says, "Yeah, well, I told her it was weird you were rude considering you're always so nice and one of the best cashiers." I immediately calm down as it's obvious he's on my side. I just reply that I didn't mean to come off as rude. I know sometimes I have problems with the way my tone of voice comes across, but I literally just said how I already knew the code cause, well, I know a lot of them. The conversation soon ends. He mentions I think that she comes here a lot and seems to cause problems. Just shut down a Kevin. I just spoke to one of the most entitled Kevins I've ever spoken to, and there have been a lot in my 35 years of customer service. So, my company does custom printing and we offer 2 items on our website that, in the most basic form, are the same thing but offer 2 very different ways and intended for different purposes. As you can imagine, one way costs twice as much as the other way as you get double the amount of product. Enter Kevin. He places an order for 4 of the wrong product, but in error we sent 8 custom signs, which actually works out better for him. He then places 2 more orders for the same wrong item with a quantity of 4, and he receives the correct amount of 4 custom signs for each order. He called me to complain. I researched his orders and discovered the error. I politely explained that the wrong version of that item was ordered, but that he received exactly what he ordered and how to order the correct version next time. He said he understood, but that is not good enough. Because we made an error on the first order, he thought we were bound by precedent and had to make the same error on the next 2 orders. By doing that, it would mean he got $264 worth of product for $132 worth. Again, I politely explained how he did receive what he ordered and that to send out more product, we would have to charge him for it. Just as I think he's starting to understand common sense, here comes the Karen/Kevin battle cry. "Ask your manager, I'm sure they'll make it right for me." Okay, she could use a laugh too, I'm sure. So I called my manager and laid it all out for her. I could hear her shaking her head and the barely contained laughter as she said, "Yeah, not gonna happen, bud." So not only did I get to go back to the customer and inform them she said no, I also logged extensively on their order, detailing the situation and management decision. I also called their local store and spoke with the manager there to explain what was going on, how this 2-for-1 entitlement was denied, and how to properly order and charge him in the future. Really? I will go to any length to correct a situation that is caused by my company, but as much as I hate the Karens and Kevins of the world, we in retail are partially to blame for creating these entitled monsters. It was nice to say no for once, with management backing me up. Karaoke Karen is not happy with swears. So, I'm a karaoke host at a local bar in my town. It's on the edge of the suburbs in the Midwest. It's at a bar/restaurant, but it's a bar. The bar is huge. It's the centerpiece of the layout and there are tables around the bar's perimeter. There's an additional bar on the patio. This is a bar. It's been a dreadful night tonight. It's 90+ degrees outside, so most folk are just sitting at home enjoying their AC, and the bar is a ghost town. It was myself and 2 other staff members of the bar that have performed all night long. At no point was there more than 10 non-staff members in the bar at any point. This is when I like to have fun, try something new, outside of the box, etc. Karaoke runs from 8 p.m. to 11 p.m. It's after 10 p.m., long after any kids have left the bar. There are 3 guys in their late 20s at the bar, that's it at this point. One of the 2 performing staff members does a high-speed rap song in Spanish. Very impressive. So, I decide to rebuttal this impressive feat with a fast rap song of my own. Enter Karen. Karen and I actually have a peripheral relationship. She is a common pull tab host for this bar, and I also host a family-friendly music-themed bingo game on weekday nights from 6 to 8 p.m. Our interactions have always been pleasant, but only passing niceties. For frame of reference, when I walked in tonight, the manager said, "Hey, I hope you're gonna rap tonight. That's my favorite." On top of that, if the bar had been packed, I would have never had chosen this song, but given the circumstances and the crowd's generally warm reception to my rapping so far, I just went for it. In the corner of this bar is Karen working the hosted pull tab booth. Typically, she does not work the Saturday night shift. I begin my song, which was Homicide by Logic featuring Eminem, and it's kick-ass if I do say so myself. This song is not anything out of the ordinary for rap songs. Nothing outwardly offensive, of course the many swear words. At this point, the Karen is apparently livid. Midway through the song, as I'm struggling to breathe, I see her talking to the manager, but don't really think much of it. Not long after, the night winds down early since it was so dead. The manager comes over and explains to me that Karen was so offended and that she said she could no longer work at that bar and needed to leave immediately. She even said, "No wonder this place is dead for karaoke." The manager tells me Karen is typically very friendly as she leaves and says goodbye to everyone, but left in a huff tonight without saying a thing. Thankfully, the manager just thought it was funny. So, as they closed down the bar and I packed up my gear, the bartender, myself, and the manager spent the rest of the time busting out our best Karen-offending rhymes and insults. Karen follows me to the back of my workplace. So this is my first post, and I've come in contact with way too many entitled people when I was working at a big retail supermarket. Some insight. I worked in the back in an online pickup section. I'm not a big girl, I'm around 5 foot, so I'm easily mistaken for someone that people can just walk all over and I'll give them what they want. For the area I worked in, there's a lot of time crunches because Uber Eats and DoorDash drivers would pick up these orders for people and drop them off at their doors. It was often that the drivers would get upset because we didn't have an order ready for them, or the person canceled randomly, meaning they had to come to the store for no reason. I was always sympathetic for them and would try my best to help because my mother was also a driver at the time. Now for the story. One day, a specific driver, who I'll call Karen, who is known for being difficult to work with, started to become impatient because we were behind and didn't have enough people putting the items into the orders for us to take out to the customers. She had been waiting for 40 minutes and decided that 40 minutes was 30 minutes too long. When I had finished loading someone else's car with groceries, Karen and my mother were standing in the front of the door I had to go back through. They were venting about how it's ridiculous that they don't have the order, and it should have been ready before I got here. When I approached the door, Karen started to ask if the order was in the system. I stated no, they were probably still picking out the items to put in the order. She then said that next time you open the door, I'm walking in and standing back there until they have my order for me. I didn't know what I was supposed to do. I mean, I have to continue to work. I couldn't just stand outside. I knew someone would come out the door eventually with someone else's order, so I just opened the door, wheeling in my cart with Karen trailing behind me. I didn't even have to acknowledge her or say anything because the moment she hits the inside of the door, she stated loudly that, "I'm not leaving until you give me my order." It didn't take long before 5 people were telling her to leave and 2 people from security to show up, and while she wasn't dragged out like I'd hoped she would, Karen did storm out, get a formal report from the app she was using for deliveries, and she was put on our be careful with list.